Hey folks, it's Ben with the Sawtooth Avalanche Center. Today is Thursday, December 30th, and you and I are out here down low in the foothills just south of Stanley on the east side of the Salmon River on a southwest facing slope here. You can see there's not a ton of snow on the ground here, but you can also see that there's a few obvious layers in this snow. Now I came here because we've been hearing a few observations about some low elevation and some middle elevation weirdness located within this newer snow that fell. I was skiing here about 10 days ago when this was the surface. Don't ask me why, it seemed like a great idea. And so I know that this surface existed about on the 22nd of December it was buried. This little crust here that you can see formed in that little bit of clear weather that we got in between storms on Christmas Eve. And then this is the snow that's fallen here since then. I've done a few stability tests here. I didn't see any concerning results, but I didn't necessarily expect to see them because we're lacking one of the key ingredients in the avalanche recipe. We need slabs, we need weak layers, and we need triggers. These layers do have some facets associated with them. I can feel them between my gloves. They're kind of gritty when you grind them. I can barely make them out visually, but I can tell that they're there, particularly in this upper crust. There's a bit of weak snow. However, lacking a slab, there really isn't an avalanche concern here. Further south, at these interfaces, both us at the Avalanche Center, local guiding services who are kind enough to submit their observations to us, as well as public observers, have reported the existence of some surface hoar and some faceting adjacent to these crusts that are producing propagating results in their stability tests. Now, those weak layers may or may not be really different than what we're seeing here, but down lower or further south, much more snow has fallen, so there's more of a slab. Keep in mind here that the persistent slab problem that we're describing in the forecast is referring to that weak snow located at the ground that's left over from October. Here, you can see there is no snow left over from October. The point of this is to say there are some layers of potential concern further up in the snowpack. They're not distributed evenly. They're not widespread. They exist in some places and not other places. For example, the surface hoar, based on our observations and public observations, appears to be focused somewhere down in the Wood River Valley area, north of Ketchum, between, say, about Lake Creek, it's been observed, all the way up through the Boulder foothills. We don't have great observations from further south of there or further north of there, so we're not exactly sure how far that spans, but it does exist in those areas. When we're moving around in the mountains, we can look at stuff like this and think about it going forward. We can know, say we like to come here and ski right where I'm hanging out right now, we can know that these layers exist, and if it snows a foot or two, that will have something to be looking out for. And we can also spend time paying attention to the surface of the snow. Here the snow surface is just this fresh snow that's fallen. It's pretty light and fluffy. There's nothing really concerning there, but say we have a warm day with some sun, we build another crust, or maybe we get these cold temperatures to continue, but the precipitation stops, which seems like it may be in the forecast for the next little bit, and we might see some surface faceting here. Near surface facets form through a few different types of processes, but it's a weakening of this snow surface that then gets buried and can become a weak layer for the next storm. I hope that helps you think a little bit about how you're moving through the mountains and maybe helps you give you some tools to look forward into the future a bit, particularly if you're recreating in a couple of areas and you're familiar with those snowpacks. And so you can see that these weak layers are generally born up here near the snow surface, eventually get buried like these crusts and facets have down here. And then depending on how weak those weak layers are and the nature of the slab on top of them and whether or not there's a trigger, that would be you. We may have an avalanche concern. So thanks. All right, we've climbed just 200, maybe 250 feet from where that last shot was taken, but we've wrapped around aspects. We've wrapped around which direction the slope faces. That first video, we were looking at crusts, sun crusts and ambient temperature crusts, and then as we've wrapped around, we're on a more shaded aspect. The sun's low in the sky this time of year, and so we don't get those sun crusts here, but we still do have this little faint ambient temperature crust. That formed on the 21st to the 22nd of December, just 9 days ago now. Here, that crust is much weaker and it's significantly more faceted. There's facets above and below that crust. Again, we don't have much of a slab on top of it. This is pretty low density snow here. A little bit of light snow on top, making for some good skiing and riding if you can avoid the stumps and the rocks and that sort of a thing. But the story's the same going forward. We do have these potential weak interfaces. Hard to assess them now because they're not buried by that much of a slab, but worth keeping on your mind when you're traveling in the backcountry. Again, these are in the upper snowpack. This area didn't have any of that older October snow that hung around in November and kind of rotted at the beginning of December. But we do have interfaces, even from this weather where it's mostly stormy. We do get some weird interfaces in between there. Just like our persistent problem that we're describing in the forecast, which is referring to that weak snow that's sitting at the ground in a lot of areas, there's spatial variability to these layers. Think back to that video I just showed you. We had a couple of crusts. Snowpack was a little bit thinner. Now we've just got this single crust here. Snowpack's a little bit deeper. There's variability as you move around the compass, as you change in elevation. Stuff to keep in your mind when you're traveling the backcountry. So thanks for listening. Hope that helps, and yeah, keep it safe out there. Enjoy this light snow.